masterful operation of tools, equipment, machines, and instruments of all kinds. From microscopic drill to supersonic jet, from tiny scalpel to giant crane, a tool is any piece of equipment that extends or varies human powers. Vehicles, lifters, cutters, and weapons are just four of the many categories of the tools that surround us. Most of us use tools in some capacity, of course, but these crafters are the true masters of tool work with an innate ability to command tools and to become expert at all the crafts requiring hand tool skills. Even from an early age, they are drawn to tools as to a magnet. Tools fall into their hands, demanding use, and they must manipulate them. Indeed, if a given tool is operated with precision that defies belief, that operator is likely an ISTP. The crafter's tool artisanship is masterful, but it is also born of impulse rather than of deliberate purpose. For these artisans, action is more enjoyable and more effective if it is unplanned, serving no purpose other than the doing. ISTPs prefer their actions to be spontaneous and unfettered. They want to follow their own lead and have their own impulses, not subject to rules, regulations, or laws. Indeed, crafters can be fiercely insubordinate, seeing hierarchy and authority as unnecessary and even irksome. It is not so much a matter of going against regulations as it is simply ignoring them and not allowing them to influence execution. ISTPs must be free to do their thing, varying each next move as the urge strikes them, and they are proud of their ability to make the next move skillfully. In a sense, crafters do not work with their tools, but play with them on impulse and not on schedule. If an externally imposed schedule coincides with their impulse, fine. If not, so much the worse for the schedule. Crafters also seek recreation on impulse, taking off at any time, just because they feel like it, to play with their toys. The surgeon shifts his schedule in order to get in a round of golf, or the carpenter is late to the job site because the surf was up, or the fish were biting. Such urges to escape routine and to play can be irresistible and overpowering, and we are advised not to try to stop the ISTP who feels like doing something. Not only impulsive, crafters are fearless in their play, risking themselves again and again, despite frequent injury. Of all the types, these artisans are most likely to pit themselves or their technique against chance or odds. There can be no end to the ways they seek thrills in their recreation, daring disaster for the fun of it. They thrive on excitement, especially in the form of fast motion, racing, skydiving, or water skiing, for instance. This desire for the rush of peak experiences also makes them more subject to boredom than any other type, their need for stimulation driving them to faster and faster pace. Strangely, however, crafters are not bored while doing their thing, even though there may be long stretches when nothing happens, as during travel, surfing, hunting, or fishing. In general, these hard-bitten, soft-spoken artisans communicate through action and show little interest in developing verbal skills. Their lack of expressiveness makes them seem like loners at school and on the job, and even though they hang around their own kind and play, they base their companionship on their mastery of tools. conversation is sparse and terse. Indeed, this lack of interest in communication is often mistaken by physicians and teachers as learning disability or dyslexia, both questionable notions of medics and academic. Let ISTPs handle equipment of any complexity and power and see how fast they learn to use it and how precisely they speak of it. With their concrete, artisan intelligence, crafters are not in the least interested in the clerical, humanities, and science curricula that abounds in modern American schools, and this often gets them into trouble because they refuse to do their assignments. Ordinary schoolwork is, after all, mere preparation for something the ISTPs figure they're never going to do anyway. Crafters do not wish to prepare for anything. They are careful to make this clear to their would-be instructors. All too often, this refusal to sit still and to cooperate gets them labeled as minimally brain damaged or hyperactive, or as having attention deficit disorder, and they are prescribed stimulant narcotics to drug them into apparent obedience. Such labels are purely fictional, and this experimental narcotherapy is likely criminal. Certainly, ISTPs are active, but only in their stubborn insistence upon getting to do something interesting, something that allows them to test their mettle. They'll work in a tool-centered curriculum. In spite of poor schooling, many crafters manage to develop their tactical skills on their own. Gifted with their hands and eyes, crafters make wonderful tradespeople: carpenters, mechanics, plumbers, furniture makers, weavers, jewelry smiths, and so on. They are the very best pilots of all manner of vehicles, and they also make incomparable surgeons, artists, athletes, musicians, and warriors. Born hunters, crafters are from an early age fascinated by weapons of all kinds and soon learn to wield their weapons with lethal virtuosity, taking pride in their prowess. Warriors, good and evil, can be seen as weapons artists, not only the marksmen among soldiers and police, but also the mob hitman and the gunslinger of the American West. This is not to say that all warriors are ISTPs, or that all ISTPs are weapons experts, but that the weapons virtuoso is more frequently than not an ISTP. Crafters are hard to get to know. On the one hand, they are equalitarian and can be fiercely loyal to their friends, teammates, and sidekicks. They will give their friends the shirt off their back, and will often give generously of their time and tool skills to help their friends with building projects or mechanical jobs, house remodeling, for example, or repairing their cars or boats. On the other hand, these artisans are lone wolves who will not be tied to schedules and commitments, and thus they cannot always be counted on to follow through on their offers of assistance. They might show up, or they might not, as the impulse strikes them, and their friends are best off not expecting them until they see them. The combination of generosity and waywardness is especially difficult for the members of a crafter's family. ISTPs can treat their mates royally, with ardent attention and beautiful gifts of their handiwork, and they can be great buddies with their children and patiently teach them their tool skills. But they can also forget their family and go off with their friends for